conversation, or shall we give it another minute?
Where is Kavita? Has she joined?
Kavita has not come yet, but
No, there is a message saying that she is having some issue in logging in.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, using the WhatsApp link.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Okay, let me just speak with the team then.
She was the one coordinating for the previous session also. Yeah.
Well, if Kavita is a little delayed, we'll, push her down the stack and in terms of the order of.
Oh, okay. So it looks
yeah, I
like
think
she's
that's-
logged in.
Oh, she's logged in.
He's here
Okay.
now. Wonderful.
Excellent.
Perfect timing.
Okay, great.
Yes,
She's
Kavita.
still muted, but she should be.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, hi, Kavita.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Perfect
Hey,
timing.
Okay.
Great.
Seeing you after a long time. Yeah.
Dr. Vijay, I'll just take a moment to introduce and I'll pass it over to you. Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Great, wonderful. Welcoming everybody. A good morning to everyone. You're our first session after the inaugural. So we're hoping to have a electrifying, very inspiring conversation with the leaders. So ladies and gentlemen, we have with us on the screen, as you can see, we have leaders from the world of sciences and healthcare. They're prominent, prestigious, people with an accolade of achievement. So it's my privilege to introduce each one of them to you. Our moderator for this conversation with leaders in life sciences and healthcare. Our moderator is Dr. Vijay Chandru. Welcoming you, Dr. Vijay. He's the founder of Strand Life Sciences. Welcoming Dr. Mahesh Iyer, the Vice President, GDO Innovation Lead and GDO India Head. Privileged to have you with us. Welcoming Kavita Iyer Rodriguez, the founder and CEO of Zumator Biologics. Did I say that right? It's got a jump to it. Zumator. Welcoming you, Kavita. Welcoming Professor M.A. Vijay Lakshmi, the founder director of Center of Bioseparation Technology. Privileged to have you, ma'am. Welcoming Dr. Anil Kapoor, chairman of the board, World Diabetes Foundation, tuning in from, where are you based? Everyone's based in India, I think, and we have.
I'm in Bangalore.
You're in Bangalore, wonderful. And also welcoming Dr. Venkat Prasupati, the senior research scientist with the University of Cambridge, tuning in from the UK.
That's right. Yes.
Yes, you are, right? I wasn't sure with the background. This is really a privilege to have each one of you leaders in your industry, in your, in the work that you do in upholding and reclaiming the space that we function in. And that really is the stepping stone to creating a better world for the rest of us. So thank you for, deep gratitude to each one of you for being here. And I will take this opportunity to pass the torch over to Dr. Vijay Chandru to moderate this beautiful conversation. And we really look forward to learning and growing together from this. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's a real pleasure to be here, and particularly with this very distinguished panel, and also to be addressing the Women's Economic Forum. I am a technology pioneer of the World Economic Forum, so have been engaged with WEF activities of various kinds. But this is wonderful to be able to participate in this. I think as I said, it's such a distinguished panel. I don't want to take away from their time and the conversations. So I'm just going to request the panelists to each take about 5 minutes and introduce the work you do, the nature of the organizations and teams you lead, because this is about leadership, and the opportunities that you see for life sciences and healthcare enterprise through the prism of your work and your teams. And let's start off with the young woman serial entrepreneur. I think Kavita Iyer Rodriguez. Kavita, of course, I've known for some time. She's been active in the biotech community, and Zumator is, I believe, your second startup. So technically now you're a serial entrepreneur. So Kavita, over to you for your remarks.
Thank you so much, Vijay. Truly a privilege to speak to multiple folks on this panel. We've probably met before, interacted before, but this is really nice. Thank you so much. So my name is Kavita Iyer, founder CEO of Zumator. Like Vijay mentioned, this is my second startup in this space. The first one was a biosimilar gig between 2007 and 12, which was very early VC funded. And at that time, the VC industry in India was very different, right? They were taking bets on possibly e-com, kind of fintech, etc. Biotech was a far off, bet. They did, and I have Axel Partners kind of backing me on the first one and now the second one, and I have multiple investors now in the second gig. I think that was a true learning for me to look at teams, to look at diversity within teams even then. So that was a good one back in 2007 to 12. And then from 13 onwards, there's Zumator. Zumator is completely in the immuno-oncology space. And Vijay would have noticed we just announced our fundraise. So this takes the total to 27 mil now. And we want to take the first asset, which is an NK activating antibody in the oncology space. We're looking at multiple indications and take that into an IND filing in phase 1. And that's kind of slated for the middle of next year. So we have a new incoming investor, Sienna Capital, a deep tech investor, a deep tech fund into this round. So we have 40 people across geographies. Vijay is familiar with this. We have Boston Incorporated labs in Bangalore. We have managed this pretty well. We hope we will take the entire pipeline to the next steps. By training, I'm a clinical microbiologist and an MBA from IIM Bangalore. So that's a bit of my background. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Kavita, and we'll hopefully get into some more details on some of the questions that the situation today with the pandemic and so on raises, and for the life sciences and healthcare. But we'll do that after going through the round here. And so from a classic biotech entrepreneur, like to move to Mahesh Iyer, who has been more like an entrepreneur, I guess, working within Novartis and large organizations, and now he's with Parexel and sort of driving innovation within large organizations. So Mahesh, your comments, please.
Thank you, Dr. Chandru. This is absolutely a pleasure. So a little bit about my background. So to start with, contrary to the panel we have of scientists and doctors, I'm actually a statistician. Dr. Chandru knows this. We've spoken at organizations together in the past, conferences together in the past. So I got my PhD in stats quite a few years ago, worked primarily with Big Pharma, Boehringer Ingelheim, Bristol Myers, then Novartis. And that's when started to realize, what innovation can do to the clinical trial industry, which has kind of been a little bit of a laggard. Clinical trial industry in India, at least, had a very bad reputation for a very long time, with being treated, people feeling that patients were being treated like guinea pigs. I think this pandemic, in that sense, at least, seems to have given everybody now a PhD in clinical trials, because everybody knows everything about all the different phases of clinical trials now. Everybody's talking about, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and so on. So which is great.
Efficacies.
And efficacy, exactly. So now everybody knows everything about vaccine development. So which is brilliant. So it gives us a bit more of a push to basically see how we can take this forward. And Dr. Chandra, we will be speaking a little bit later on how the pandemic has kickstarted some of the things that we have been dabbling with in the past for a few years, but now seems to have gotten a real boost with the pandemic. But in terms of the current organization, Parexel is what they call a contract research organization. So essentially, we don't have our own molecules, but we essentially work with either biotechs or with big pharma to say, help them conduct their clinical trials here. We're a fairly large organization in India. In fact, the largest single organization for Parexel in the world is in India. We have about 5,300 people spread across Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Chandigarh, Mohali. I lead what they call the global data operations space, which is essentially how do you ingest data. So creating the case report forms on the databases to bring data in, to clean the data, to analyze the data with statistics programming, and then finally to report the data with medical writing. So all of those functions is part of my remit. And the bigger remit actually is looking outside the clinical trial space, what with startups and other sorts of areas to see how can the solutions that they develop, how can we incorporate, amalgamate that to the work that we do in the clinical trial space so that we can make clinical trials that much more efficient, that much more cheaper, that much more faster. So that's really, the areas that I sort of focus on. And looking forward to having more questions later. Thank you, Dr. Chandra.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you for, giving us a quick overview, I think, of what you do in the organization, and for keeping to time. I think it's good to conserve some time so that we can have more interaction as we go along. So Professor Vijay Lakshmi, I think, it's a real privilege to have you here on this panel. I think, you've come to VIT and you head the bioseparation technology unit there, but you've also had vast experience in France as a researcher. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about.
Yeah. Good morning. So I'm more known as Vijay, not Vijay Lakshmi.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
So my journey started initially with France from 1971. And I've been carrying my career there, but I was a kind of a globetrotter. So I was having work in USA, and part of my studies were from Sweden, Uppsala. And I had the privilege of having Professor Porat as my mentor, so which made me go into chromatography. So I'm a chromatographer by profession. So that gave the privilege of being connected with Pharmacia, which is GE Healthcare today. And that privilege taught me how to think logically and how to get the things from simple to a very high level. So that was the base I had. And this I want to give to all the people. So when I started becoming very well-versed and people started to know me, the Indian government spotted me out. They said, why don't you come and do that in India? Then I said, should we start an industry? They said, no, we want you to train the people for industry because you have been very successful. So I'm very proud to say that I have a big legacy of people who have joined industry as vice presidents. One of them passed away. She was the global research in charge of Sanofi. And another one is still Sanofi now, he has left for Lonza. So all these people were from me. So, and also the vaccine production, Olivier Pichot is my very favorite student. So this way, I think the government saw that very clearly. They said, we want you to train people for industry. Then I had a challenge from somebody from Indian Embassy in France, said, you go to some middle-level place and see if you can train. I said, I'll do it. So I took the challenge and I chose VIT as my host structure. And I'm very happy with that. And they have given the facility. And of course, we are very successful because of all our industry links. That helps a lot. And I would like to congratulate all our industry panelists here because it's very, very important to be with them and to share kind of logical, basic thinking along with industrial exploitation, which will go a long way. So my major interest is separation science per se, but major interest is to train people in that particular field and allied fields. And I'm very proud of my team. They are really very good, and I wish this continues, because I put my successor in the place here, because all of you know that I'm not that young. So, but things are going very well, and I'm very happy. And I think what we need in India, we have a big reserve of people, very big reserve of hardworking, intelligent, and committed people. We have to use them correctly. We have to give them the best training in the beginning. That is logical thinking with this is, I don't like the word applied research, but I will say targeted research. So they should know what it can bring and how they can exploit it for the society. So I think this is my major dream. I'm still dreaming and trying to do. And I'm very happy, and I would like to congratulate my youngsters, a plethora of people all over, spread all over the world, including Scandinavia, USA, Europe, and some of the countries like Lebanon. Because for me, I think it's a global development is more important than individual continents or individual countries. So I think this is what is my dream. And I thank all the other people who have been helping me in this, like many industries, from Slovenia, from Sweden, from France, and from USA. So that has been a very good thing to work with them. Even now, we are working even with Saudi Arabia, because they are giving, they were interested in one of the targeted delivery system we patented. So they said, we'll develop it. So I think this is what I want to, particularly the women scientists in India, they have a very good potential. And I think compared to other countries where I have seen, they can really do it. We have the example here, Kavita. So I think this is what is my dream, and that's what I'm still continuing to do.
Thank you very much, Vijay. I think, those are very relevant comments, and it's great to have you here. And it's, in another forum, we could have gone into the whole discussion of leadership and succession planning, but I think, you're already on that. But I think moving on, we have Dr. Venkat Pesupati, who's a senior research scientist at the Stem Cell Institute in Cambridge, in England. And it's, first of all, we have to be really grateful. He's up really early in the morning there. I hope you've had a cup of coffee. So Venkat, over to you. Please tell us a little bit about the organization and your roles there, and where this is all heading to with regenerative medicine, because I think that's sort of the theme at your institute. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Vijay, and thank you. This is wonderful and exciting to be part of this panel. As I said, that's Vijay said, I'm Venkat, and I'm a native of Chennai. I came to Cambridge on a Cambridge Commonwealth Scholarship for a PhD under the mentorship of Professor Martin Evans, the person who first isolated stem cells, who set the platform for all the stem cell-based work in the world, and that was a long time back. So I'm attached to the Cambridge Stem Cell Institute, and I lead the Stem Cell Hub under the UK Regenerative Medicine program at Cambridge. The aim of the program is to bring human pluripotent stem cell-based therapies to the clinic. And we are using Parkinson's disease as an exemplar. Where we are looking at generating dopamine-producing neurons, neuronal cells from these stem cells, with the aim of using them for transplanting them to the Parkinson's disease patients. And this is a very European-wide collaborative project called the STEM-PD. And it involves a number of researchers and clinicians, surgeons, engineers, clinical trial coordinators across a number of institutes. And also we do have people from commercial enterprises as part of this program. And there is a huge potential for regenerative medicine, and it is an emerging field in healthcare. And there are very few where we are able to take these stem cell derived cell types to the clinic. So in terms of the potential for the future, it is huge. And as you can see, I was just Googling to look at what is the market value of global stem cell based therapies, and it is amazing. So in 2020, it was estimated at $27 billion, and it is expected to, it's projected to raise to $150 billion in 2028. So you can see the rate at which it is growing. And this is what we call the compounded growth of annual rate is around 26%. So in terms of potential, it is huge. It is at the very beginning, but quite a lot of work is needed to look at how to fine-tune the methodology to derive the right cell type for a particular disease or a disorder that you are looking at.
So thank you, Venkat, for giving us that. They're conveying the excitement about stem cell related work and your work at Cambridge. And now we move on to, I think I've saved Dr. Kapoor for the last year because, in some sense we have a physician who's also gone on to lead a real global agency, the World Diabetes Foundation, and I'm sure he has a lot of wisdom to convey to all of us, and we'll look forward to his remarks. Dr. Kapoor.
Good morning, colleagues, and thank you, Chandru.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. I'm a physician by training. But I unfortunately never practiced on patients. I'm an internist, but I joined the pharmaceutical industry. And in those days, it was the Ambalal Sarabhai Enterprises Sarabhai, which was one of the leading pharma companies, where I joined as a medical director. And then I was involved with clinical trials and drug development and regulatory affairs. Over a period of time, Novo Nordisk, which is one of the largest biotech companies, and the biggest manufacturer of insulin around the world, was planning to set up their office in India. And as luck would have it, when I was with Sarabhai, Sarabhai was the distributor for Novo, and I was responsible for dealing with that business. And so they asked me if I would join Novo and start up the office for Novo in India. So I moved on and I set up a liaison office, which then in 3 years was converted into an Indian company. And therefore we set up Novo Nordisk India Private Limited in Bangalore. And I must say that when I started with Novo, people hardly knew about diabetes. And there were a handful of doctors that one could count on that were able to treat diabetes in a more structured way. The work with Novo provided me with an opportunity to ensure that medical education was dealing with an important aspect. And I remember in the early mid-90s, when I used to talk about the burden of diabetes, there was a joke going around in Bangalore saying that let's not 8 of us get together, otherwise one of us would have diabetes, according to Dr. Kapoor. Because I used to say 1 in 8 person in adult in Bangalore has diabetes, and this is going to grow even further. So from that, moved on to creating a lot of awareness, education around diabetes, running a business, being a medical doctor with no training in management and business. and moved on to running Novo Nordisk, which today is a fairly big company in India. And when I used to work with Sarabhai, and even subsequently for many years, the highest selling pharmaceutical products in India used to be cough syrups and multivitamins. Today, for the last 10 years, the highest selling product on the Indian pharma market is human insulin. And justifiably because of the huge burden of diabetes. And at that point in time, I realized that it is very important to run a business, but also ensure that there is education and awareness in the public about this issue, because this is a big, big problem. And so we set up a small foundation, which is called as the Novo Nordisk Education Foundation. And as part of that, I asked the senior management in Novo corporate to allow me to earmark 1 rupee for every vial I sold in India to be able to give free insulin to children with type 1 diabetes who could not afford insulin. And that's how we set up the Novo Nordisk Education Foundation, and we did a lot of educational work around it. At a certain point in time, the CEO of the company became very interested in what we were doing in India. And he said, Anil, why can't we repeat what you are doing in India at a global scale? And I said, Lars, yes, I would be very happy to assist you in that. And that's how the World Diabetes Foundation got established in 2001. So we are going to celebrate our 20 years since then. And at that point in time, I was still working with Novo Nordisk, and I was designated as the representative of Novo on the board of the World Diabetes Foundation, because it was an independent arm's length foundation that was set up. But later on, the CEO felt that it was necessary that I should come to Denmark and take the charge of running the foundation. That's why I moved to Copenhagen, and I was there for 7 years. Since the foundation got established, I think we have funded about 560, 570 projects around the world. We have projects in almost 110 countries around the world. And now these projects are moving on to national level programs in many countries where we are working directly with the ministries of health. And while I was doing all this, I realized that there are 2 important issues in healthcare. That one is the structure of how healthcare is delivered. It is very siloed. So there are communicable diseases, there are non-communicable diseases, there's maternal health and all that. And I was looking at one particular issue, and diabetes and tuberculosis. People don't realize that diabetes is an immune compromised state. We all talk about retinopathy, nephropathy, neuropathy, and all that. We do not talk about the immunopathy of diabetes. And there were clear links, and coming from background in India and knowing about tuberculosis and stuff like that, I said, this is something that we need to put attention on. And therefore, I went and met with the International Union Against Tuberculosis and Lung Disease. And I said, you keep on talking about the links between HIV and TB. There are only 42 million people with TB, with HIV, but there are almost 420 million at that point in time with diabetes. And therefore, the greatest threat to future burden of tuberculosis may not be from HIV, but would be from diabetes. And unfortunately, what I said is coming true. Today, diabetes is become one of the biggest drivers of tuberculosis, apart from blindness and amputations and all that. The other area that was very important to me from a very early age when I was practicing was about diabetes and women. At some point in time, it became very clear that young women during pregnancy get gestational diabetes. And gestational diabetes is not only an issue of that index pregnancy, but it is a way of nature of putting a spotlight on this woman, because she is going to be at the highest risk of future burden of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and all the metabolic problems. And the offspring born to this woman is at the highest risk. Unfortunately, we were doing nothing about it. And therefore, I approached the International Federation of Obstetrics Gynecology. And while in India, we worked with creating an organization called the Diabetes in Pregnancy Study Group in India, and then worked with FIGO. And now FIGO, one of the biggest things that FIGO is doing is looking at pregnancy and NCDs in a big way. So I believe that from a women's perspective, and since we are talking of a Women Economic Forum, it is a very important issue that health of women and health of young women is given the fundamental importance if we want to address the burden of NCDs going into the future. The health of the mother pre-pregnancy, during pregnancy, and post-pregnancy is a very critical element in terms of preventing this whole burden of NCDs. So when we talk about preventing diabetes and preventing cardiovascular disease, we're talking of dealing with people which are like people like you and me in their late 50s, 60s. You know, we are past our prime. We will not change our behavior. But what can happen is the change of behavior that can happen at the earliest point in life. And particularly if women are enlightened about it, then it will be much better. And also from an economic point of view, it is a very big, important issue. So I would particularly ask all the panelists, and particularly the women panelists, to pay a little more attention on this issue around maternal health and its links to NCDs. I'll stop here and we can move on further.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kapoor. I think you gave an extraordinary narrative there about your own journey and how this affects women, economics and healthcare in general. And I think you've really done human service in this context. And I think let me continue with you in this second round. And you already alluded to the comorbidity effects of diabetes and, in the context of TB. And I would ask you also that in the context of the pandemic, I mean, we certainly saw respiratory challenges that were particularly severe with comorbidity of diabetes. And do you think this has been sort of a tipping point for a rethink and reset in the allocation of resources and priorities towards understanding metabolic disorders and diabetes in particular, and how we should going forward, how our health systems need to respond to this?
I hope so. I'm not very certain, because unfortunately governments tend to forget very quickly, and we don't give attention to history and what happened. Right. But this is a very important issue, because it is not only during COVID that we're realizing it. We have seen this happen with SARS. And I remember when I was traveling to China on one of our projects, and our projects in China were delayed when the SARS epidemic happened. It was actually a ward boy who made a comment saying that it is people with diabetes who are dying more extensively with SARS. And it is because the immune response in people with diabetes is dysfunctional. It is exaggerated, but is ineffective. And that is what happens with tuberculosis, where the mycobacteria are ingested by the macrophages, but are not destroyed. So it provides them a safe harbor. And in the case of these viral infections, it is the exaggerated immune response, which is further exaggerated because of its ineffectivity in diabetes. And therefore, the consequences that we have witnessed in terms of mortality has been the highest with people with diabetes and hypertension. The other issue around diabetes, and I particularly pay attention to diabetes because to me, I think it is the mother of all diseases of modern times, because it is about the way our parents lived, because that is how we got programmed. So if I have to explain karma, I would explain it on the basis of these issues of developmental origins of health and disease and the intrauterine programming that happens. So it is related to our past health of our parents. And we are witnessing this quite extensively, that the rates of gestational diabetes are going sky high. In cities like Chennai and Bangalore, the prevalence rates of gestational diabetes are almost touching 18 to 20% now. We have witnessed that in China as well. And this is because 40 years back, we lived in a society of undernourishment, inadequate nutrition. And women during pregnancy, when they are undernourished, the babies are born small. But during the past 30, 40 years, there has been an economic development, and from being not able to afford 2 meals a day, now if we can have 3 meals a day, and we are actually having a festival every day, these same people are unable to tolerate even that development. And these women who are born to mothers that were undernourished are the first ones to experience gestational diabetes. Later on, when they grow up, they would experience, their daughters would experience. So it is becoming mother to daughter transmission. And
so there is a genetic factor.
Yeah.
There's apart from genetic, there is a risk factor transmission that is happening. Sure. And this is something that women must understand, and society must understand. If we have to address the health of our nation, it is very important to pay attention to the health of women.
Right. I think Vijay had something to add.
Comment and question to Anil. So thanks a lot. I think it's very informative. So see, one question I have, of course, when I started this laboratory, one of my students, she was insisting to work only on diabetes. And there is a big group working on diabetes in this center here. So we have a plethora of natural products which have been in the market just like that at random and without any specification, without any standardization, nothing. Plethora of them, not just one. Everything people just take and blindly, and sometimes they get into trouble. So what we have started with this student who inspired me, it is not me who started, she started, I should say. Now there is a big group of people with her and with me. In fact, I got fascinated with that. So we were able to show some of these common medicine that people were using and show the pathways and the components which are in charge for each of those pathways. How each component is contributing to one of the pathways. Diabetes is a multi-organ misfunction, I would say, or something. It is not functioning correctly. So that we were able to show biochemically and also clinical, I mean, at least animal model. Now we are going for clinical. So if that is so, why not we start something like of course, Valiathan was starting, but it was a very expensive game. It was difficult. But maybe we have to start a kind of some structure wherein people with the similar approaches, like we can just go and then study some of our own resources, which are really very precious. I would like to share these data with Anil as soon as possible, if I can get in touch, or even we can meet together, because I live part-time in Bangalore. So we can probably see that this is a very, very interesting thing. We have shown all the liver dysfunction corrected, intestine dysfunction corrected, and the pancreas regeneration of the beta islets, and also cytokine coming down, because the cytokine inhibitors are working. So this may be very interesting to look at this type of approach, not only for this product, which is Indian, also many other Indian products. We have a very big potential. This is what I was trying to say in my introduction also, saying that thinking and taking it from our tradition to our training to the real public, I mean, globally.
Thank you.
Anil. It was very inspiring for me. I think I should meet you as quickly as possible.
That's right.
Ma'am, yeah. I just wanted to make a very short comment to what you said. Many of the things you said are most appropriate. And I, for one, believe that these alternate systems of medicine do offer a lot of opportunity. And in particular, I would like to say in terms of prevention, I think it is a great opportunity. In terms of treatment, I think we need to analyze the data
Exactly.
more scientifically and
Exactly.
be able to prove that the efficacy and efficiency of these drugs. So I would reserve my judgment on the treatment part at the moment until and unless there is greater evidence. But from a preventive perspective, the whole value of Ayurveda and other alternate systems of medicine is tremendous, and that is what we should actually encourage.
And Vijay and Dr.
Dr.
Kapoor.
Kapoor, I think we should meet, because
Sure.
the data I will show you will certainly convince, at least for this product, because
Sure.
it is standardized. It is
No,
not.
thank
Yeah.
you.
So I think
Thank
we have
you
to
for
meet each other. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. I think it's great to see the conversation already, getting interactive like this. Very nice. I also would like to mention both to Vijay and Dr. Kapoor that I serve as a visiting faculty member at the Transdisciplinary University of Darshan Shankar. So, we could actually involve them as well in the conversation.
Yes.
And
So
I
this
think
is very important. Yes.
And actually, Vijay, I would like to meet with you because you mentioned about the digital health initiatives.
Sure.
And I wanted to say that no one, in terms of the World Diabetes Foundation is launching one of the biggest digital health initiatives called the Diabetes Compass. So I'll put you on to the guys that are responsible for it to see if there could be potential collaboration.
Wonderful, thank you. So we'll have a follow-up meeting in Bangalore then, and the others on the panel too are most welcome to join in. I think so, but I do want to get a little bit of a focus on this, the pandemic and the focus it is brought life sciences, biotech, and on life sciences, biotech, and healthcare. And, Dr. Venkat, would you have some insights of how the Stem Cell Institute work and so on has probably been put to another direction? I think Dr. Kapoor, did you want to say something quickly, or?
I just wanted to say, and I'm sorry for interrupting Venkat. Is the fact that, we're talking about women's health, women's issues. And it is a tragedy that during pregnancy, women were denied vaccination out of misunderstanding of the whole issue of it. And this is another example of how women's health is always pushed onto the back burner. So I just wanted to make that.
No, I think an important point made there about vaccine inequity that was clearly an issue. Dr. Venkat, your.
Yes, pandemic was a huge disruptor, I would say.
Still going on, right?
Yes, it is still going on, and I'm sure it is going to go on for some more time, I guess, from the way it looks. Yes, it did have a huge amount of impact on the kind of work that we do, because, as I said, ours is a large collaborative work. So we depend on engineers and other researchers. So it is each one feeds the data into the other party or the group for it to take things forward. So when everything closed down, and it will have an impact, because a lot of this work cannot be done with working from home, unfortunately. So these are laboratory-based work, and some of our collaborators did have a huge impact. And as a result, what has happened is this has put us in terms of the timeline of taking this therapy is a first in human trial by a good amount of time, because we are dependent on not just making the cells, but also we are looking at delivery strategies. How are you going to take these cells? How are you going to inject these cells into the patient? So all those developments did take a hit. But at least in Cambridge, we are fortunate enough at the Stem Cell Institute, where they have put in quite a good amount of work in advance. We've been closed only for just 2 months, and we're able to carry the work forward with just the staff being involved in that. But we couldn't have any students coming in because of the restrictions and the regulations. And so it was a huge hit, and it will have a knock-on effect in taking this forward. So, yeah.
Thank you, Venkat. I think, Kavita, you had mentioned NK cells as a focus. I mean, certainly, from an immune system perspective, that's a very interesting focus. And is there a COVID-related idea there that you're developing, or that's worth looking at? Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting that you bring it up. So when we started off, there was so much focus on the T cell, B cell space, like you already know, right? So when we took the NK angle, we were always warned, saying that, this could be the valley of death. We don't know what happens to reasonably interesting oncology targets that, people go around building, say, antibodies or even ADCs on. We don't know. But we stuck at it. We did look at a very compelling pipeline, and we went forward with this biology. And right now, the mechanism is assured. We have good preclinical talks, right? And so we believe we could go forward with it. To that question that you asked, Vijay, we actually have a grant with Harvard where we do work on an anti-COVID antibody. Right. So that goes back a little to the platform that we had developed. We have a human antibody library, which we call Enabler, right? We had built it out almost 6 years back, and we've IP'd every portion of it. So our own antibody comes out of that. Our own NK antibody comes out of that platform. So we decided to kind of leverage the power of this platform to see if you could actually get some hits from this library we started off with the original strain. Now we've looked at some models for Delta and now Omicron. So let's see. So we have that grant ongoing. It was through the US ISTF piece.
Okay. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. And of course, I've had the privilege of visiting Zumator and seeing their whole facility for developing these antibodies. And I think, I would encourage young women scientists to reach out to Kavita and Zumator and to understand better how this type of very cutting edge research in molecular biology has been working, right? Mahesh, your turn. What has been the impact, of the pandemic in this whole, contract research space, and has there been some reorientation? Is there a tipping point of for some type of work? Your comments.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Dr. Chandru. It's been a sort of, we don't want to call it a blessing because there are far too many people who have died, but it's been a huge tipping point, right? Primarily because of one specific area where we have seen the maximum amount of people actually taking on, the area moving forward, which is the area we call decentralized clinical trials. So for a long time, the idea has been, how do we, get to the point where patients don't have to keep coming to the clinics for their regular clinical trial visits, right? So it's a lot of inconvenience. A lot of patients don't participate in clinical trials because there is a very high burden every 2 weeks, every month. You have to go to the clinic on the specified day, plus or minus 1 or 2 days, do a whole number of investigations there. It's extremely inconvenient, which has really stopped a lot of participation, right? And obviously, when you don't have the participation, you don't have the diversity, you really are, you're looking at a very small sort of selected population rather than the population at large. And so the movement of the clinical trial industry has been to say, how do we make this decentralized? How do we take the investigating site to the patient's home, right? And the idea has been there for a while, but it never caught fire until the pandemic came about, because all of a sudden now nobody could travel to the sites, right? But the things had to go on. I mean, oncology studies, really, studies that had a lot of mortality, other kinds of really serious diseases. We had to, continue on with the studies, and so we flipped to actually nurses or investigating personnel going to the patients' houses. And so the whole area of, and suddenly it became the norm now, right? And not so much the norm, but, just from Parexel's standpoint, about 30% of our studies now have some kind of a decentralized component. So there's some data that's being collected directly from the patient's house, either through an e-diary, either through a mobile application, either through nurses visiting them at home. So whichever way we do it, it's actually made a huge impact. So that's been one area. And now that kind of spawns off a lot of other areas, right? So you start talking about wearables now. If you want to have a continuous glucose monitoring, the way we used to do it before was patients had to come into so it was very epoch based. Every 6 months we would, do your monitoring and look at HbA1c. Now, if you have a CGM, you're getting real-time data all the time. So how do you now analyze this data differently from how we used to analyze before? So it's got that knock-on effect on how we are really thinking about endpoints in clinical trials. And that has been a huge leap forward, especially in the pandemic side.
Well, thank you very much. And I think, we have just about 10 minutes left, and I wanted to give a heads up to Mansi. Mansi, have there been any questions that have come up from the audience? I was checking the chat, but I didn't see anything.
Okay, let me check with the
Right.
back end. Perfect.
Sure.
Well, that is being done. I just wanted to make a comment, and you said the impact. I think the biggest impact that probably might happen to healthcare delivery with the COVID pandemic would be the fast forwarding of the digital health initiatives.
Yeah.
And the ability to provide care for chronic diseases literally online in a way. And I think that would be a very healthy development.
Right.
And as a consequence of that, there would also be this whole issue around electronic records, which is something that is so very, very critical for delivering chronic care. Because without that, and I've always wondered that I can access my bank account, I can access my ticket from anywhere in the world. Why the hell cannot we access health records in that same condition?
So I think the Ayushman Bharat digital mission is really
is trying to work on that.
Yeah, on that. And so just a quick mention, I'm the co-chair of the Lancet Citizens Commission for Reimagining India's Health System. And I look at the technology work stream. I co-chair that work stream. And so, yeah, I mean, we're certainly very, very interested in taking this conversation further. Mansi, anything from the audience? If not, I think this panel is quite happy to take back the time.
Yeah, I think we can continue this.
We can continue. Okay, great.
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Thank you.
In case something comes up, I will let you know.
Please,
and,
please.
Yeah, because it is such an enriching conversation. I think we're all sort of glued to our screen, so please do continue.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have one suggestion.
Please.
So I think this panel should not exist only today.
Right.
In some way, I think we are absolutely complementary to each other. That's what I found. Whoever has structured this, hats off to them. It's very good. So this complementarity should be taken further to improve the system and to help our generations to come. Because I belong to the 2 generations before all the youngsters today. So I think we should probably see whether we can put our efforts together. Occasionally, we need not put all our time because everybody is very busy. But I would suggest that we should form a working group with this, with
Sure.
the interests that are.
No, thanks to Sandhya, we've already formed the group.
Yes, yeah.
So we
He's
can
doing very well, but still, I think we should ourselves take the initiative.
Absolutely.
To do how we can be, fruitful to the society and to ourselves. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Vijay, why don't you go ahead? I think just a quick punchline of what is your message to the women and the economics with since this is the Women's Economic Forum.
I will try to be short because it's a very important topic for me.
Thank you.
Because I've been into that for a long time, even in the gender equality of European community. Okay, so the women by themselves have been contributing enormously to the economy from age-old time. It is not today. I had a fight with some Indian thinker, philosopher, when he said women are going to work now, they were never doing. I said, wrong. The agriculture was not existing without women. I'm very sorry to say. Okay, so what I would say is, with this era of technology development and the knowledge dissemination and all that, women should participate. First thing is, it should come from themselves. Many of them are highly capable for different reasons because of their heavy load of work. They are sometimes dissuaded. That has to be made easier. Of course, technology has made it easier for them at home, everything. So I think this is a very important thing where the women are contributing money, and they will contribute more. We have a good example of Kavita. Kavita, I know her very well. So I think this is very, very important, that we should encourage people to be able to come to the limelight, because some by our social, I'm not talking only about India, I'm talking about the world, because some of the countries are even worse. You know what happened in Sweden with women equality. Okay, so I think what I feel is women themselves should know what is their passion. I'm not against women being household homemakers, etc. But the decision should be clear from their heart and then from their wish. And they can contribute enormously for the progress of women, progress of society, and progress of economy. So we have seen today in the previous session, some of the women political leaders also. So I would probably request my young woman here to say something about this, what she dreams.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
quickly, please. Yeah.
Thank you to all members. Sir, I have a question for Dr. Anil Kapoor, sir. Sir, you just recently mentioned about the digital platform for diabetic patients, especially. So, although we see that urban people, they're already connected to digital world and they are, aware of a lot of things, a lot of advocacy is going on. But for the rural population, how do we plan to spread that digital word to them? Because gestational diabetes is lot of gestational diabetic women are found in the rural area. I was working in Jodhpur ICMR for some time on that particular project, and where we found that gestational diabetes and a lot of effects on the kids when they were born they were having. So how do we plan to spread it across to that particular area?
Neha, we're running a little short of time, so
Sure.
Dr. Kapoor might answer quickly, but I think maybe we should take this offline, right?
Sure, sir. Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
So let's
interesting.
just
I
do
want
that.
to create in the group here.
Sure,
now.
sure. Absolutely, yeah. So let's continue with the message to women in who have interests in life sciences and healthcare, and a message. Dr. Kapoor, would you like to deliver a message? And I think you've already given many, but please.
I think one thing I would say, that whatever women do, they do a lot. What men cannot do, women do. And it is very important that we ensure that they are acknowledged for what they do, whether they are housemakers or whether they are professionals. We need to ensure that they get recognized for the contribution that they make to all of us and to society.
Thank you. Thank you for that very positive message. Dr. Venkat, a quick message from you, and then we'll...
Yeah, so fortunately and luckily, in life sciences, we have a fairly good representation of women. And it is very nice to see that. And I just want to say that what is needed is try to be curious and always ask the questions, and then learning from mistakes. And these are things that happen in research on a regular basis. And that is what is needed, is asking questions and being curious. So that is what drives science. So it's nobody is going to be targeting on one particular thing. So if you take, for example, the COVID, the mRNA vaccination technology, the stability of mRNA, they never thought that it is going to be used for the pandemic, but they were very curious how to make the RNA stable. That curiosity drove them to identify the analog that made the RNA molecule to be stable. And that had an impact for the entire global pandemic. So
Thank you.
science
Wonderful,
is never...
wonderful message on how science has
Vijay, I have one small word. I thank Venkat very much, because this is what I'm trying to teach all the students.
Right.
And if you come to my lab, it will be there, link and think and think and link. I think that is what we have, as a teacher, I'm saying, we have to teach them how to think correctly, how to observe, think and act. So this is very important, and women are probably very efficient in this because of their intrinsic capacity to observe with their children and even in their kitchen, etc. I think this is something very, very important what Dr. Venkat said. I think we have to teach our youngsters not just to touch the button and do something, but think.
Yeah, I think Vijay, your message has come through. It's very good. I think we have 2 minutes left, so I'm going to give a minute each to Mahesh and like Kavita to wrap up, please. Go ahead, Mahesh.
All right. So my message is very simple. As Venkat said, there is a lot of women presence in the life sciences space, but where we are heading with the connection between life sciences and technology, I think the technology bit is where I think we still don't see women stepping up as much as we would have liked them to. So if there is a way that you can extend that curiosity beyond the basic life sciences to also include aspects of technology, I think we would make long strides. So.
Right. Great. Thank you so much. And Kavita, you're the breaker of glass ceilings. So please, you have to.
Thank you so much. I think it would be really nice to kind of hear everybody here on this forum. I think my take on this would be, like I think Venkat mentioned and alluded to, there is opportunity for sure. And with women and taking up STEM courses, you can see those numbers rise. But that translating to something in participation by means of workforce, leadership, even risk-taking abilities like in the VC world, you see those numbers dwindling. But there is a change. And I think everything is a point in time. And it's a very, I believe there is a positive outlook on this shift that's been happening. So there can't be just pockets of competency. It has to translate. And that's what's happening. So I think that's a good space. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you. Wonderful panel. You stuck to time. We're handing back exactly at 11. Thank you. Right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Nancy, over to you. Right.
Thank you. Thank you. Stay, please stay. Thank you so much. Please allow us to offer gratitude for such an enriching discussion. It really, we feel very privileged to be with stalwarts, in a one-on-one conversation. And really, you brought healthcare and what's happening in, a rather technical, biotech and life sciences space to the front and center of our understanding as laymen. So really, deep gratitude to you. And we have a whole new set of, we have a new vocabulary, link and think and link, sort of infusing our endeavors with curiosity in Dr. Venkat's words. And really, it's been really a recharging of, what oftentimes we as laymen don't get to see, don't get to hear on a, sort of on a direct basis. So this has been very, very encouraging and inspiring. So thank you to each one of you for the work that you do, for the exemplary forces that you are. And for that, at the Women Economic Forum 2021, on behalf of the All Ladies League, we'd like to offer you a small gesture of our appreciation in the form of these awards. So please allow me to announce awards for this illustrious panel. Please accept Dr. Mahesh Iyer. You are bestowed with the title of Exceptional Leader of Excellence at the Women Economic Forum. Make some noise, audiences. Everyone's tuned in today. Thank you so much for being here and for the work that you do. Kavita, we'd like to honor you with the award of the Exceptional Woman of Excellence for the path-breaking work, for the shattering of glass ceilings, in your space. We congratulate you for being who you are in the work that you do. Thank you so much. Calling upon Professor M.A. Vijay Lakshmi to acknowledge this award as the leader of the decade in life sciences and healthcare at the Women Economic Forum on behalf of the All Ladies League. Congratulations to you, ma'am, for the legacy that you hold and that you have created. Dr. Anil Kapoor, please accept this humble acknowledgement on behalf of the All Ladies League as the leader of the decade in biosciences and healthcare at the Women Economic Forum, its Digital Avatar 2021. We congratulate you. Thank you. Dr. Venkat Pisupati, from the University of Cambridge, you are indeed an exceptional leader of excellence. Please accept this acknowledgement, this title at the Women Economic Forum on behalf of the All Ladies League. Thank you so much to each one of you. And on this wonderful note, I'd like to present our last award to a fantastic, enriching, inspiring discussion that was moderated by the one and only Dr. Vijay Chandru. Please do accept this award as a leader of the decade in life sciences and the legacy that you are creating. We congratulate you. Thank you so much for leading us into an enthralling discussion and for really opening up our world in terms of women's healthcare, in terms of sort of guiding a beautiful narrative that is truly inspiring for healthcare at large. So really do appreciate your work, and thank you for this conversation, and thank you for this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mansi.
Thank you, Chandru.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you very much for conducting it in such an elegant way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Forward to further conversations. Thank you.
An excellent experience, and I enjoyed it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Excellent.
also actually that like Dr. Vijay said, that we'll be forming a task force. That's, sort of one takeaway that we'll take. We do have, we will be going out and sort of creating, co-creating panels, these discussions to take them forward. So, but you've already initiated that. Yeah, I think this also is the launch of that task force that will, keep this conversation moving ahead into more productive arena. So thank you to each one of you for your time, and have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay.